I want to know, what is HML? You said you're HMLer. Mm-hmm. What does this mean? Did you not ever think of just doing just history or just Spanish? Who would you recommend this degree for?
I know you also wanted to chat about church a little bit, did you?
I did. Tell me about how your experience with church has been at university.
I also don't work on Sundays, which has been a game changer, transformative.
Yeah. Hello everybody and welcome to episode 3 of Spilling the University Tea. I'm here today with a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself? Who are you? How do we meet? How do we know each other?
Oh, that's so many fun questions. I'm Lizzie. I am a second year HMLer at CATS, which basically means it's called History and Modern Languages, but I basically do history and Spanish. And the way we met was kind of fun. We do one of the same Spanish classes, and we had to make an iMovie.
Which was great.
Which was so fun. And I rocked up to Andrew's house to make this iMovie, and I found out about all this, and and then the idea was born. Yeah,
basically for one of our classes, I kind of spoken about this a bit before. For one thing I really like about the languages degree is that, especially in second year, there's different ways of getting assessed. So one of my papers, I'm doing coursework instead of the exam, which is feeling like a godsend right now, because I know that in last term, it's going to be a bit more chill. And two of the papers for me, because I do MML, you do HML, we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
But another two of the papers, they are assessed by video essay or video coursework. So practicing for that, we did a mock, except for we did it in the form of a podcast, and that was kind of how this idea was born. You're kind of a very influential figure in my channel right now. Because we just thought, okay, why not do a podcast this assignment? Mm-hmm. And then here we are today.
And it was so cool. We had little cups of tea. It was like a chat show.
Yeah, and then in our feedback, the teacher was like, I really enjoyed watching this, guys. Yeah. We were like, yeah. Thanks, Sylvia. Yeah, you did.
And we were about to start it, and Andrew whacks out his teleprompter.
Yeah.
It was official.
It was official. But let's dive in to the real tea. I want to know, what is HML? You said you're HMLer. Mm-hmm. This is part of our weird Cambridge slang. What does this mean?
So, history and modern languages. So you can do history in German, history in French, history in Spanish, Russian, Italian, I think. Maybe something else I've forgotten. It's quite a small degree, very niche. Most people I meet, I'm in second year now, most people I meet are like, oh, I've never heard of that degree. And you probably haven't. There's 30 people in the year, but that's across all the different languages. It's super fun, super varied. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So just to clarify, one of the things that we have, like you said, the thing we have in common is we have the same Spanish paper. So even though I do Spanish and French, and you do history and Spanish, we still share the same core modules for Spanish. Firstly, why did you choose a joint degree? Because I feel like it's, like you said, it's quite niche. Yeah, what drew you to doing history and Spanish?
Yeah, good question. I think long story short, I just loved Spanish, and I knew that I wanted to get fluent in it. Fluency at uni is kind of a weird concept. That's a whole other deep dive. Yeah. But I wanted to get better at it, and then I really loved history as well, and I thought, I didn't really want to drop one. So then I found this course, and I was like, that sounds perfect. And the interesting thing is it's not its own lectures and its own modules. Like you were saying, we do the same Spanish. So I just do history with the historians and then Spanish with the MMLers. But yeah, I just love the variety. I'm quite indecisive as well, so I didn't want to have to drop one.
No, that's smart. I think it's very interesting you say that it's not, I'm trying to think of how I can phrase this correctly, but it's not a course separate from MML. It's part of, I'm repeating myself now, but like you said, we have the same Spanish core modules together, and that means that you're still going into the same depth of knowledge. It's not like you're doing a bit of history and a bit of Spanish. You're doing it to the same academic level, so you're not missing out at all.
Yeah, I think I miss out less on the languages side, because I just do one less language. But on the history side, there's some papers I just can't do, which is a bit sad, but...
Oh, okay. Yeah, interesting. And did you not ever think of just doing just history or just Spanish? Or did you never think of choosing that instead?
I always wanted to do languages. That was what I decided first. Oh. And then I went through a little existential crisis the summer before I applied, being should I do Spanish and Italian? Should I do Spanish and Russian? Because you can pick up languages here from scratch. And I'd only done Spanish at A-level. But then I was actually, I'd miss history too much. And I love how, now, if I get bored of, doing a Spanish translation, I can go do some history reading. Or, if I'm bored of history essays, I can go do, our videos. Do you know what I mean?
Very interesting. I think I really admire you for that, because I'm not going to lie. I kind of make fun of myself quite a lot of the time. I'm like, yeah, I do languages and that's it. But it's kind of like French and Spanish, same sort of skill set. And I think that history and Spanish, or history in any modern language, obviously it's a good pairing, because they've got, like, if you want to do a history paper within Spanish, so you're doing like within the Spanish faculty, something on Spanish history, like you're going to already have like a bit of a head start, well, a lot of a head start, because you already have all these history skills, which are so transferable.
That's true, actually.
So, good for you, girl. One thing I wanted to know as well is, well, firstly, who would you recommend this degree for, do you think? If anyone's watching and they think, well, a few questions. I'm throwing you a bit of a curveball. Okay. Do you have to study both history and a modern language at A-level to apply?
No.
Oh, you don't? What did you do?
So I did history, Spanish and maths at A-level, bit of a rogue combo. So I did do both, but I know someone who's doing history and German, but the German's from scratch. She didn't do that at A-level. So you don't have to have done both. I'm not sure if you have to do history. I'd need to fact check that one.
Check on the website, guys. Cambridge
yeah,
University
it will
website.
say. But who I'd recommend this degree for? I think if you love both and you're interested in like Latin American or Spanish history, and also if you're interested in like culture and wanting to speak the language, because I think we so much better understand history when we read it in the correct, like what the language that the sources were in. And also if you just like dipping into a lot of different things, because like this year, my degree, like first year it was very much 50-50, but this year it's actually 25% history, 25% Spanish, 25% Latin American studies, and then 25% Portuguese as a fun little add-on. So it's kind of like a liberal arts degree this year. So it's really like you can make it what you want. Yeah, like I could have done 50-50 again, but I just thought I'd change it up.
I love that for you. You've got your finger in lots of... Is that expression, having your finger in lots of pies?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. I want to touch on you picking up Portuguese, because I've spoken about this in a video saying why I chose MML.
Yeah.
And basically, as a side note, in first year, for me, for example, I arrived with 2 languages. I was doing French and Spanish. Obviously, you're doing Spanish and history. And then in second and fourth year, you have the possibility to pick up an extra language. So I'm doing Catalan this year. You're doing Portuguese. How are you finding Portuguese? Do you ever worry like, oh my goodness, I'm doing so much stuff. Like I'm doing Portuguese and Spanish and history and Latin American studies. Like, do you ever feel like it gets a bit too much, or are you enjoying the variety?
I think like it is a little bit more work than last year. Like I think I have the equivalent of like a module's more work than last year.
Yeah.
But I think the variety means it just doesn't get old, because especially Michaelmas, when I just started Portuguese, like it was so fun to have a class where we were learning to tell the time. Yeah. Like I haven't had that since like year 7.
No, it's fun.
Yeah, no, I love it, and I think there's also a lot of similarities, which I guess helps. Like, did you find that with Catalan?
No, I've had a really good experience with Catalan. I really love it. And like you said, it's nice to have a bit of variety, especially in second year where you are getting more specialised. So in first year, it's more like introduction to, for me it was introduction to like Spanish literature and culture, introduction to French literature and culture, like a lot of kind of general papers. And then in second year, you're going in deeper. So I think that the fact of studying a completely new language alongside my like French, like I'm trying to think of the whole name of my French paper. It's like Reformation in French literature in the 21st century. Like it's very specific. So it's nice to do something that's just a bit more like, okay, I'm learning a new language. And I think also beyond that, it's nice to have that extra skill on your CV. Because I know for Catalan, we get to do, as part of our lessons, you can do a CEFR certificate, so they're like the A1, A2, B1, B2. So most people do B1, but you can also do the B2. So it's quite nice to have that. Also for the year abroad.
Yeah, 100%. And also like, it's actually quite cool that you're meant to get to A-level standard in a year. Like that is kind of, I mean, it's fast paced.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know, I think it's really cool. And I mean, we can update on if that happens by the end of the year.
Maybe we'll see podcast part 2.
Yeah.
No, that's so fun. And also one thing that I think quite a lot of people don't know is that technically speaking, you can do your year abroad split between, well, the language, if you're doing HML, you can technically do a bit of it in Spain and like Brazil if you wanted to. So the rule is for the year abroad is that you have to spend some time abroad, either working, studying, or doing a volunteering placement in the language or languages that you studied in your first 2 years at Cambridge. But that doesn't have to be like one of the languages you came with. It can be one of the ones you picked up, even if you picked up in second year. So if you want to do like, I know you're not, but like you could go and do an internship in Brazil or something.
Yeah. Which is really cool.
So I think it's a great opportunity that maybe people don't know about.
I know a girl who came in with Spanish and French, did
Nice.
Portuguese in second year as an add-on, and then spent her entire year abroad in Brazil. So she's just like ditched Spanish and French.
I know someone as well who did that. I met her the other day, and it was the exact same thing. Like, she just loved Portuguese, fell in love with it. Personally, I think it's a bit risky because basically, just to nerd out a little bit on how the exams work at Cambridge, is that only your last year for MML counts for your overall degree.
Yeah.
It changes per subject. So for law, for example, I think it's 50% second year, 50% third year, or I know at least both years count.
Okay.
Same for like linguistics, but the percentages vary. All of this information, by the way, you can check on the university website.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
For us.
but for us, like I said, it's just the last year that counts towards your overall grade. And basically, this means that for the language exams, so like translation, speaking, things like that, you will choose, okay, I'm going to do translation into a foreign language and translation from a foreign language into English. You can, if you want to, like do translation into French and then from Spanish into English. But I think I'm going to do all of my language exams within one language area because you don't want to spread yourself too thin, just in my opinion. But then that's why I was thinking that if you do your year abroad in, say, like this girl who did French and Spanish, they did the year abroad in Brazil and then came back, I'm assuming did the exams in Portuguese, like, good for her, but like, it's a bit risky. Anyway, that was a bit, I was diverging a bit, sorry about that. But yeah, long story short, a lot of opportunities. For your applications to other universities, did you apply for the same degree? Does HML exist at other universities? Did you apply for some universities like just Spanish, some just history, or how did it work?
I was actually trying to think about this on the way here, and I tried to log into my UCAS, but I've forgotten the password. So I was trying to see which unis. I definitely, like, HML is a thing. I mean, they don't call it HML, they just call it normally, like, history and Spanish. Like, I know Bristol was my insurance, and it was history and Spanish.
Nice.
I know Durham do it, because I applied there as well. I actually got half a jet from Durham, fun fact.
Oh, didn't they offer you languages?
Yeah, they offer me languages, not history and Spanish. And I think, like, some do, a lot don't, but I actually kind of like that because there's so many unis you can pick from, there's so many great unis. So it's quite nice to already have the choice. Like, I know Bath don't do it,
Interesting.
for example. Yeah.
And, okay, awesome, really nice. One other thing that some people might not know is doing history in modern languages, do you have to do the year abroad? Is it, can you talk through what you've got planned for that a bit?
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to do the year abroad, in short. I actually need to work out how that ties into history. Like, I think I kind of leave history for a year, I think.
Yeah.
I wouldn't swear on that. Check on the university website. I need to work it out. But yeah, I'm going to Buenos Aires in Argentina
So exciting,
for 6
girl.
months, and then Barcelona for 6 months. So I'm going to study in Argentina and then do an internship in Barcelona. And you're going to be kind of nearby, so maybe like same side of the world.
Same continent.
Yeah, same continent.
Yeah, no, awesome.
Have you said what you're doing before on this channel?
I don't know if I have. I might keep it a secret.
Okay, yeah.
Keep your eyes peeled for a new video, guys. But you know, I think one thing that I like as a non-HMLer, one thing I think that is really good about doing HML is that obviously you come in just doing that one language history. In the year abroad, you can just focus the whole year on like Spanish if you want to.
The choice is made so much easier.
So I think that it's good because realistically, I think a lot of people have this perhaps misconception that just by going abroad for a couple months, you're going to come back fluent. It's actually like you have to put in a massive effort to speak the language because especially if you're a native English speaker or just an English speaker, there's English speakers all over the world. So I think the fact that you're going to have more language, like more time speaking Spanish is going to be very beneficial for you.
Hope so.
So that's good. Okay, that's enough to talk about work. I wanted to ask you, how do you find work-life balance at Cambridge? Do you have any societies that kind of help you regulate your time? Because I've spoken, I've said personally, I like do cheerleading, and that's the thing that really helps me mentally regulate. Okay, this is the time when I'm gonna stop doing work.
Sure.
Yeah, do you want to talk about how do you find it here? Is it really like so much work you can't sleep, like have to pull all-nighters, or what's the tea?
In short, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Like I think as humanities students especially, there is always more work you could be doing. So when people are like, oh, like there's so much work here, to an extent that's true, but you also don't need to do all of it. In terms of like, I've never once finished a reading list, but like no one has.
No one has.
So yeah, I think sometimes I think I have a bit too good of a life-work balance. But like last year, well, this like throughout my whole time, I've played mixed lacrosse for college, which you do as well.
Yeah.
We might be playing each other sometime this season.
Wait, what's your? Sorry, I diverged 1 second. Which team are you? Do you have like? Is it joint colleges?
No, we're just cats.
Just cats.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cats Lacrosse.
Shout out to Cats Lacrosse.
Shout out to John's Lacrosse.
Yeah.
Work.
So I really love that, and like it's just so chill. I'd never played lacrosse before uni. I didn't even know what it was, but I just met them at like a sports freshers fair, and they were like, try it, and I did. And all my friends did. It was really fun.
Wow.
And then last year I did a lot of acting in the ADC. I did 4 shows last year.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. So like this year just work's got a bit more intense, and I've just kind of put my time and energy into slightly different things. But I kind of miss it, like all my theatre friends. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was really fun, but very time consuming. Like friends who, if you know any friends who do drama at uni, give them a hug.
Yeah,
like,
real.
they are up all night, like at rehearsals, and yeah, it's crazy.
Can I say one thing? I'm naming no names, but I had a friend once who did so many shows, and she was just doing show after show after show. And then she was like, oh, I'm so behind on work, like, I'm doing rehearsals all day. And then she got a first, like,
What?
she got a first.
And then you also wanted to chat about church a little bit, did you?
I did want to talk about church. Tell me about how your experience with, like, church has been at university. Has it been a good community? What would you say to anybody who's watching that thinks, I don't know, who is maybe a bit hesitant, thinking about the church scene or, like, religious scene at university?
Yeah.
What's your experience been?
Okay, so I guess a little bit of background. Like, I'm a Christian, and I think coming to uni was the first time that I kind of chose independent. Like, I kind of gone to church, like, growing up. But, you know, going to uni is the first time where if I wanted to, I could have just been like, no, not my thing anymore. But I think, like, so much of my identity is in my faith. And you were saying about regulating because of cheer. Like, I think I actually couldn't imagine doing university without, like, having a relationship with God, because I just think it gives me my purpose and my worth. So I found church at uni so incredible. I think for the first time, there were other like students who like believe the same thing, like friends my age, and there's some really great churches in Cambridge. I think like it took me a while to choose my church, but I love it. Community's so good, and I think it just feels like a church family, which is like what it's meant to feel like, right? And like after the service, we'll like go get brunch together and just have that fellowship. And I think I'd say to anyone hesitant, in my experience, I'd just say like go try a church, and hopefully, and I think they like you should get a really warm welcome, and also don't be scared to try a few. Like I know friends who didn't pick for ages, but yeah, I'd say go give it a go, because I think sometimes it can be so intense here in the Cambridge terms, and I love on. Like, I also don't work on Sundays, which has been a game changer, transformative. Yeah. Do the Sabbath.
Yeah, really.
Because and just going to church and actually lifting your gaze and like worshiping. I just think,
awesome.
I love it.
And I think, I mean, one thing that I've personally found, I should be more involved in the church scene, to be honest. This is like my reminder right now. Like, please actually, like, when we are recording, like, let's make a date of when I'm going to come along.
Yeah.
But basically, I went to a few events in my college chapel, and I think that coming from like a more rural place, I was very worried about like being gay in like any religious context, because, well, I'm trying not to like overgeneralize, but in certain, well, like I've had certain church experiences where it's kind of been a bit like just like, oh, gay, or like the elephant in the room, you don't talk about it. But I've had like really good experiences. Obviously I can only speak for myself, but like it's been so accepting. It's been just like, oh, okay. Not even a question. Like my college chaplain is gay, and it's just super like friendly. So I think if anyone's kind of had a bit of like religious trauma, or like, I don't know, they've not felt accepted within a religious environment, I think at university you would be shocked. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, also I can only speak for myself, but I have been accepted in every single environment I've walked into. I mean, obviously, I'm not gay, but like my friends who are, I think have had similar experiences. Like, I'm so happy to hear that you've like just felt really welcomed. And I think that's the other thing. Like chapels are very different from like there's a whole range in Cambridge because there's the university chapels and there's like other churches and yeah, but I think, I mean, we should love as Jesus loves and welcome everyone with open arms. So that is my hope for Cambridge churches.
That's so like inspirational. Oh, I was thinking. Also, just one thing I want to clarify is when I said I was shocked in a good way. I don't want to be like I was shocked, like clickbait.
Yeah.
What? That's so good. I'm so happy. And I think that's everything for today. I think that's all we've got planned. But thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Shout out again to Sylvia.
For bringing
we should
us
send this
together.
podcast to her. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Let us know in the comments, and maybe you'll be invited back.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Thanks.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Wow.